Hey there, how's it going? Cat up here with another QEDTalks, and this time we have GamerMomLuna on. She is a co-writer on shadowmain.com, which the links will be in the doobly-doo for everything below, by the way, which is, I've been checking it out, pretty awesome site of like gamer tips for RPGs, interviews, like blogs, and all sorts of like awesome stuff, so you're going to want to check that out. But welcome to QEDTalks, Luna.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. I love doing these little like chats with people. It's a good way to learn more about the community. Sometimes I learn stuff. I learn stuff every time. My smooth brain processes a little bit more with each person I talk to. So
I completely can understand that. I did a 3-year stream that was a panel interview stream every week for 3 years, and I learned a lot.
Wow, so you're more experienced at this shit than I am, that's for sure.
Well, yes and no, because all of the questions that we talked about were all things that came in from chat. So it made it really interesting. It was a lot of fun. We actually we just recorded the series finale not long ago. So finally was like, I need time to do some other stuff, but it was a lot of fun and it was a really good run. But I learned so much about like games and how people do things and how they run their tables, and got so many great ideas and tips and suggestions, and it was fantastic.
Sounds pretty awesome. The only live streamed one of these I've done was with Spigs, one of the leaders of Cypher Unlimited.
Yep.
And we had a bunch of people in there. I'm not like the largest channel around or anything, but I get enough people in sometimes and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, normally I just record for the sake of recording.
Yeah.
So format of this, just to remind our audience, as well as to get you into the swing of things, a couple of baseline questions I just asked through, get to know you, see how you are compared to some of the other people I've had on. We'll chit chat about some talking points, and then at the end I've got a couple of community questions that I haven't really thought about yet myself. I'll probably randomly choose which ones we're going to get, and we'll try to answer them together. And
sounds good.
See how our points of view and our experiences come into this.
Okay.
So first, let's just start about who you is. Who's GamerMomLuna?
So I am GamerMomLuna, and I as I just said, I'd been streaming a TTRPG talk show for about 3 years. I've also got several years of TTRPG actual play streaming and podcasting under my belt, so I've done a lot of that. And then, as you mentioned earlier, I also write for shadowmain.com, where we do 5 days a week. We have content. We're publishing content 5 days a week. So we do one day is kind of our takes on different things. Sometimes we bring in people from the community to write about their takes on things. For example, we had a great 2-piece article on metagaming after that sort of broke in the Twitter sphere. And then we also do, like you mentioned, interviews. We do, recommended videos, where, one day might be GM tips, another day might be player tips. And then we also run sort of a campaign diary. So talking about various games that we've been playing in and how those are going, and trying to get community feedback on those and see what people think about, maybe you should try doing this, or hey, have you thought of doing that, or that sort of thing. So, we have a lot of fun with that. We enjoy that, and I work with Shadowmain at Shadowmain on Twitter, and we tag team that. So that keeps us pretty busy.
Yeah, I imagine. I remember Shadowmain contacting like a bunch of people, but I remember him contacting me at one point. They were like, hey, want to do... I don't remember any of this, but apparently I did like a little like blurb interview thing back.
You did, yeah.
And then it was posted one day, and I'm like, I don't remember doing that. What?
Yeah, that's the thing is, so we've had so many of that when we had such a positive response to when we asked a bunch of people that we ended up having about 3 months worth of interviews that we were able to schedule out in advance.
Oh, that's nice.
So, I mean, it was great because then we were like, okay, we can take a break from asking people for a little while, but it was pretty great. The stream that I just wrapped up running was called Tales from the Tavern, and so we sort of adopted that idea for our interview section on the blog. And so it's fun. I refer to it as microdosing Tales from the Tavern, because instead of 5 guests, it's just one. And the questions are, it's a lot shorter than a 2-hour stream and that sort of thing. So it's just a quick little, 2-minute read, and fun to see what different people in the community have been up to. And yeah, it's a good time.
Snippets for those of us with the shorter attention spans.
Exactly.
I ain't got time to read a book.
Yep.
One thing I like to get from people is, where did your online handle come from? I love the stories behind everybody. Like Spigs was super interesting, for example.
Yes. Yeah, that is a really interesting one. Mine is not quite as interesting. I'm a gamer. Duh. I'm a mom. Duh. And Luna, so that's where the more interesting part comes from. Luna is not my actual name, but it is a handle that I adopted when I first started getting into video gaming. I was late getting into video gaming. I didn't start really getting into video games until my very early 20s. Oh. And when I started playing, I joined a group of friends of mine that were playing Jedi Knight Jedi Academy. And this was like hardcore. Like, they had a ranking system and you had to challenge for your spot on the ranking system. And like, when you started playing it, there was an apprentice, and it was nuts. Yeah, so we all had call signs that everybody, you picked your own call sign. So mine was Luna, and I just sort of carried that through all the way, and it stuck, and I like it. So that's where that part came from. That's probably the most interesting part of my handle.
Yeah, that is kind of neat. I find a lot of, we're just getting used to it. Everyone having like online handles and stuff these days, because I swear people call me KEDHUP more often these days than I hear my real name.
Yeah.
It's like, because I interact with people online so often, and like, it's very rare I hear Arcus. It's KEDHUP is like 90% of the time, because that's what everyone knows me as. And I've been going by that for, I don't even know how long I've been going by that.
Yeah. And it's, honestly, it's fine. Like, if I were out in public and someone was like, oh, hey, Luna, like, it wouldn't even faze me. I would turn around, respond to it. Like, that's just, it's part of who I am, and that's okay. It was a funny story. One of the people that I met when I joined the streaming community, we became good friends, but we finally got to meet in person for the first time just like, I don't know, 6 months ago. And we were meeting at a restaurant. He and his girlfriend were there, and I was just arriving, and I'm walking down the street, and I'm probably 2 blocks away, and and it's this like quintessential New England little city, where the streets are really narrow and the buildings are tall and brick and everything reverberates off of them. He just belts out, Luna, at the top of his lungs, and I was like, oh my God. But at the same time, like, I knew exactly who it was that was doing it, and so yeah, it's kind of fun now. I go to cons and everybody knows me as Luna, and it also is kind of nice because that's how I can differentiate between the people who know me in real life and the people who know me from online.
Yeah. No, I love the way that works, and like I said, even in real life, I've had friends just be like, "Hey, Ked," and I'm like, "Yeah," and then like I've got like family around me be like, "What did they just call you?"
Yeah.
Like, never mind.
Yeah, some of my like actual like in-person real life friends, so to speak. I hate saying like real life friends, because all my friends are real life friends, but you know what I mean. Yeah, your in-person
IRL stuff.
Yes, yeah, the people that I knew before I really had an online presence, I guess, is probably a better way to say it. They all know that like Luna is my handle. And then there's sort of the people who have come into my life after I sort of became, and so then it's really funny because you can almost see them kind of struggle with like, wait, do I call her Melissa or do I call her Luna, or like, which one is she today? So yeah, it's funny.
I like it. I always love these stories. Yours is, like I say, more pleasant than some people like I've talked to with Spigs, where his was, I wouldn't say unpleasant, but it had character.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I always like hearing where these come from. It's a very personal choice. Like I've in my like youngest years, because I started playing games and stuff really young, I went through a gambit of various handles. I'm glad I have not kept. At one point I was a harmless puppy. That's fine. Then for a while, edgy teen. I called myself Queef Breather. Glad I didn't keep that one. So,
yeah.
Doesn't go as well in the adult world, except in maybe a few circles. But
yeah, right. Yeah.
KEDHup is esoteric enough that people aren't gonna like guess what it is or where it comes from or anything like that. So it's nice and easy.
There you go.
So let's delve in. Obviously, most of my stuff is role-playing game related, and most of your stuff is role-playing game related. So how and when did you first hear of role-playing games, and did you have any like preconceived notions about RPGs before you actually tried them?
So, like I said, I didn't start really getting into video games until I was in my early 20s, and it was several years after that I actually started playing Dungeons and Dragons. So I had heard of them, but like I didn't know anybody who played them. I grew up at the age like I mean, I'm not super young, but like Magic the Gathering was sort of hitting the middle school rounds when I was there, and like you didn't associate with the people who played Magic the Gathering in the lunchroom. Like you just didn't. So that was sort of the age that I came up in. But I always kind of knew, like, I was kind of always intrigued by the idea of tabletop role-playing games. I just didn't know anybody that played. So I didn't start until, like I said, a little after I got into video games. So I was 26, I think, when I started getting in, and that was still D&D 3.5.
Oh.
So I started playing then when my daughter was a newborn. This was like several months after she was born, and my now ex-husband was hosting a game night at our house. So it used to be like he would have the D&D group over, I'd put the baby to bed, and then because new mom, I would go to bed.
Yeah.
And then sort of as time went on, it would be like, okay, he's got the D&D group, I put the baby to bed, and I sit in the living room with a book and kind of listen to what's going on. And then finally one night it's like, okay, just clear a spot. Like, I'm coming in.
I'm going to try.
Like, let's go. And that was pretty much how it started. And so yeah, played 3.5, and D&D was the only thing that we played. Everybody at the table, that was like the only system that anybody was familiar with. We'd heard of Pathfinder, didn't really know anything about it except for that it was like not D&D. Like it was like D&D, but it wasn't. And so, we played all the way through. We had continuous tables straight up until like 2018 when my divorce was finalized. And I everybody jokes that you split the friends when you when you get divorced, and some people stay friends with the ex and some stay friends with I got the D&D party.
Nice.
So yeah, so we kept playing at my house. And we played for a little while, and then we hit like the holidays. So coming into 2019, we hit the holidays. Everybody kind of got busy, so the group, as groups do, kind of fell away, and we were like, we'll get back to it after the new year. And that was also right about the time that I started getting into streaming. I sort of found this open casting call, and I was like, sure, why not? Like, I'll get back, I'll give it a try. I knew nothing about streaming, did not have any setup for it. And I was one of like 4 women that responded to the casting call. So they were like, great, you're in. So I was the only woman in a cast of 5 men. And we were playing Pathfinder first edition. So I'm like, great, we're streaming, which I knew nothing about. We're playing Pathfinder, which I knew nothing about. So I was like, this is going to be a disaster. And I ended up having the best time of my life. Met some amazing people through it. Just really had an incredible time. Started getting involved in other games, learning about new systems, started the stream that I was running. COVID hit, and I was like, great, I'm already connected with people online, so I didn't have to worry about losing my D&D group because we were already playing online. And so at one point I was streaming 3 actual plays plus my talk show every week. That was a little much. I ended up backing out of one of those games, but I was playing 2 Pathfinder games and a Savage Worlds World of Darkness crossover. So we were using the Savage Worlds rule set, but the lore from World of Darkness. So that was pretty cool.
That's a combo.
Yeah, it was awesome. And then here and there throughout that, I've gotten to record podcast episodes using Quest. I've done a lot of offline stuff, learning how to play Cypher, and right now I'm learning how to play Blades in the Dark. Let's see what else. A really cool little indie system called Aether and Steamworks. Oh my goodness, so many different games and systems that up until I started getting into streaming, I never would have known existed because my group was so D&D focused. Yeah. And it's been life-changing. Like, it sounds like hyperbole, but it really has been life-changing.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I think a lot of people don't realize that it's. It is just a game, but at the same time, it's more than that. It's why I used to run for the longest time. I actually ran for kids. I had a setup at my local gaming shop, and it was just for kids. It was like from a certain age to a certain age. Because like I put it in pamphlets, I'm like, you've got critical thinking, cooperation, teamwork, like math skills, stuff like that, and it's a lot. It builds you up to do a lot with it. It's
so cool. For me, it was, clearly I was already into adulthood, so it was less about some of those things. Although I will say, it really helped build up my confidence in a lot of ways. Having just gone through my divorce and all of that, it was kind of like having to start some of that process over again. But also just the people that I met and the experiences that I got to have and the stories that I got to have, getting involved in these major fundraising projects. This year, on my channel, we did we've done it for 2 years. Last year, we raised a little over $1,000 for Extra Life in a weekend. This year, we raised over $2,000 in a weekend.
Oh, very nice.
So it's just really cool stuff like that. And, knowing that that's all going to a good cause, but also, like I said, the people, like some of the people that I met through playing TTRPGs have just become some of my absolute closest friends. One person that I met, actually, because of her daily job, is actually now contracting with the agency that I work for some of the work that we're doing. And that was just a connection made through, hey, we both play TTRPGs. One friend that I made tutored my daughter throughout COVID because she was having such a hard time in school because she was a teacher in another school system. And she was like, yeah, I'd be happy to help your kid out, so she tutored her once a week for me so that they could, work on some of her schoolwork that I didn't know anything about. I met my significant other through TTRPGs. We've been dating for almost 7 months now. And never would have had that opportunity to find each other, discover that we were even in the same state or anything like that, had I not gotten into the community and, sort of built up a Twitter presence and been streaming and that kind of thing. So, I'm not even kidding when I say that it's life-changing.
Man, it sounds like we took the same background qualities on our characters or something. Like,
maybe.
I inherited the best during my divorce. I inherited some of the best players in our group. I met my current significant other through our current games. Like, same things.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's been so cool. One of the things that I love is when my boyfriend and I are just kind of hanging out and, he's like, hey, what if? And then that some story is coming and I'm like, oh yeah. And then we just kind of like, ping pong an idea back and forth, or he'll be like, this is what I'm working on with my group that we play on Monday. And, what do you think about this or whatever? And because he pretty much solely GMs and I pretty much solely play. So that works out well. But then, it's kind of nice because GMing is something that I've wanted to learn, and he's been super supportive of like, yeah, anytime you want to try running something, just one-on-one, let me know. Or he'll bounce something off, like I'm thinking about doing this, and I'll be like, well, if I was a player in that game, here's how I would respond to that, So we have some fun conversations like that. And, you know, he's been working on a, you know, kind of a silly, fun supplement, not near ready publication, but, you know, we'll make sure we announce it when it is. But it's kind of fun because he'll throw ideas out and I'll just be like, oh yeah. And then we can, you know, and we sort of have that, almost a word association thing that happens after that.
His personal beta tester.
Yeah, pretty much.
I like it. Yeah, I think a lot of people that haven't got into RPGs and don't fully understand, like they think like, you know, whatever, I have friends, I hang out with them. It's like, yeah, okay, I mean, you might hang out with them, have a couple of brewskis, watch a movie or something. But when you sit at a table and intensely socialize with a group of like 4 to 8 other people, however big your group is, for like 4 hours at a time, that's a very different experience.
Yeah, it really is. We've also gotten into, there's a new game store that opened in my area just a few months ago. And about a month after they opened, and they really kind of specialize like in board games, but they do have a fairly sizable tabletop section, most of it being WotC stuff, but they have a few, you know, things here and there that are Tales from the Loop, I think I've seen there. They had Kids on Brooms. You know, they've had some publications from Kobold Press there. So a lot of it's all mostly 5e related, but there's a lot of other fun things there too. But they put out a call looking for, you know, hey, we want somebody to GM D&D games at our store. I sent the posting to my boyfriend and said, hey, you were looking to start GMing at a store. Maybe this will be a good fit. We had one session, me and 5 other people showed up. One person was completely brand new to TTRPGs. She never played in her life. One had played a little while. He was probably like in his 20s, so he had some experience. One was probably 14-year-old kid who is on the autism spectrum. Mm-hmm. And then another was probably like a 10-year-old who came with his dad. And it was so cool, you know, to see kind of like how everybody played together and you know, really sort of how everybody got into the game. And you know, the good thing that I learned is that the woman who showed up that was brand new to the game, she's coming back, so that's good. Nice. It was successful enough that they asked him to, instead of doing 1 4-hour session once a month, he's now doing 2 3-hour sessions once a month. And so the first, you know, that happened for the first time, you know, about a month ago. And then that's going to be going through the end of the year. So it's been, you know, it's so great just kind of seeing all the different people that come into TTRPGs and sort of like, I've said this for a long time, but I feel like if you don't like playing a TTRPG, you probably just haven't found the one that's right for you.
Agreed.
Because there's so many out there and they're all played differently. And I feel like there's one for everyone out there. So
absolutely. And I find just the diversity of people that you can get, because it doesn't matter, at least for me, I've dealt with some interesting individuals as of late in the YouTube dramas and stuff that may not have accepting of tables. But part of what I like is the fact that I have had people all over. I've got one friend who's fairly deeply in the autistic spectrum that plays with us. I've got people of different races, orientations, everything, all over the place. And it doesn't matter what you are, because if you're playing a Sparkles magic elf that flies and shoots fireballs, who cares what you are in real life? We're grown-ups playing make-believe. So
yeah. Like, I love it. It's such a I don't even know. Like, it's such a nice, in a way, it's like a nice callback to childhood. Like, the other day I was taking trash out and there were these 2 girls in my neighborhood that were outside playing. And one of them was dressed up like a pumpkin. The other one was dressed up like a fairy. And all I kept hearing was, pretend that, blah, 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 blah. And then the other one would go, yeah, okay. And then like she would cast this magic spell, you know, and it was like this poem that she made up on the spot. And I was like, the next generation of role players right there, you know.
Yeah, I love it. Hopefully it keeps going strong. I mean, in my entire life, and I've been in this for decades now, I've never seen role-playing games being as strong as they are. You mentioned about like some groups being kind of hyper-focused on D&D. I think that's important why we have people like us that do streams of various things to show like D&D is not bad. Like D&D has its place. I'm in D&D games still. I by no means do I dislike D&D. But I always say over and over in my videos, it's one tool in a toolbox. There's so much more out there. You gotta try
absolutely.
it out.
Absolutely. And there's so many different, there's some systems, like some people really like the crunchy numbers, like, they want to have those really, I don't want to say difficult rules, but that's the kind of thing that they gravitate to. And that's great because there's a lot of that out there. But then you also have the rules light systems that are super easy for anybody to pick up, Quest or, things like that just, you flip through the book and you go, okay, there's a 1-page character sheet, but it's literally filling in the blank like a Mad Libs, and everybody has 10 hit points. Everybody has 10 action points. If you only play with a D20, and if you roll a 1, sure, just like in most things, it's a catastrophe, and if you roll a 20, it's a triumph, and then somewhere in between, if you roll between like a 2 and a 10, then it's like you fail, and here's what happens. You roll an 11 to a 19 or whatever. You roll, you succeed, and that's it. Like nothing sensational happens, nothing really great, or things like that. Quest has like a neat mechanic where they call it a tough choice. So if you roll between 2 different numbers, I don't remember what they are. You have to make a tough decision. It could be like, sure, the thing you want to have happens, but you're also going to take damage from something else, or the thing that you want to have happens doesn't happen, but your person who's at 1 hit point finds a healing potion, something like that. So there's just so many different things to appeal to so many different people and that's what I really love about it.
Yeah, they vary so wildly. Like I have a community, I'm part of the Friendos community, which is mostly up until this year was mostly just like variety gamer streams and stuff. And then my buddy Bad Hair Gaming did one little intro session of D&D for them, and they're like, hey, that's pretty good. And then I'm like, came in on Sundays, and I'm like, hey, why don't I do like a rotating cast game? We'll start with D&D, but then I'll start introducing you guys to other systems. Yeah. And since then, we've done several others. We're doing Cypher right now. We just did Kids on Brooms before this, which was a very different version of Kids on Brooms than the norm, but yeah, we branched out, and then I just released a video because I was talking with some of them, the fact that I've played so many different types of RPGs at this point, I've lost count. But I pick up tools, as I say, like little bits from each system that I kind of like. And I just dropped a video about it, actually, that sometimes there's ideas or tools from one system that I like to bring to other systems. I kind of bring along with me that I think are amazing. And that's why
I've seen a lot of people that really love doing that kind of thing. I personally, it's just not a skill that I have. I'm just not great at that kind of thing. But, I've seen other people that can look at a system and sort of hack it apart and say, okay, I want to take this rule with me to this system and this rule with me to this system. And, sometimes it's something just as simple as, that tough choice thing that I mentioned. There's a podcast that I listen to where the GM, well, now the guide, because they switched systems, but the guide, when they were playing Pathfinder first edition, still used sort of that tough choice mechanic. And I was like, oh, it's so cool, because it just adds another depth to the game that you wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah. All right. So you have obviously started to branch out. You're no longer just D&D-esque. So you've experienced some different systems and stuff like this. Is there a certain style of game that you prefer, a certain genre, or maybe even system if you want?
Genre, I tend to gravitate to the fantasy, so D&D, Pathfinder, like things that sort of fall in that type of world. But I'll try just about anything. I've done a sort of a sci-fi horror game with Mothership. I've done that one a couple of times. Quest is kind of nice because you can really put that into any type of system that you want. Aether and Steamworks that I mentioned earlier sort of is like steampunky, so that type of world. So I've done a little bit of sci-fi, and there's a lot of things that I like about different systems. I think I tend to gravitate towards fantasy because it's the thing that I know the most about. I don't know a lot about, sure, I've watched Star Trek and Star Wars and, things like that, but I don't speak sci-fi, so I don't necessarily know all the language for weapons or, airships and things like that, but I know it in fantasy, so that's why I kind of stick to that. Mm-hmm. But I really, I'll try almost any system once.
I think most gamers, once they've at least burst the D&D bubble, most gamers are generally in that territory. It's like, oh, I'll try it. Sure, why not?
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to, so I have been really looking forward to running a 10 Candles game. So people who know me know that GMing is just not something that I feel very confident in. Mm-hmm. After some pretty bad experiences with a table that just sort of ripped me to shreds the first time I tried it. Oh. And so I just was like, yeah, nope, we're all done with that. We're not going to try that again. But then I found 10 Candles. I had heard about it from other people. And then when I was at PAX East this year, the creator was actually there. Oh, and cool. Was selling copies of the book, and I was like, sure, I'll pick it up. I've heard about the system, and the book is it's tiny. It's really thin. I've got it right here. So it's 80 pages, 90, not even 90 pages, 81 pages. And I read through it in a night, and I was like, I could do this. I could absolutely run this, because it's a zero prep game. It's not based on here's what I need to do, and then you guys need to react to it, and then I need to react to what you do. It's very much a collaborative world, where basically the players are just as responsible for telling the story as the person who runs the game. Mm-hmm. So I'm dying to try it.
I love the games that are part of that. That's actually one of the tools in my video I said I like to keep around is Cypher does it to a degree, but I think Fate was the one that really did it for me, was the fact that it was a lot more collaborative. If you spend a fate point to declare a story detail, the player kind of gets to take over for a second.
Yeah.
And as long as you've got a GM that's willing to work with that and not hey, no, this is my story, then you're good.
Exactly. One of the things that 10 Candles does that's kind of like that is, I don't know how familiar you are or how familiar any of the viewers are, but basically the gameplay only lasts as long as you have 10 tea light candles lit. As each candle goes out, it moves to another stage of the game. Your players, their characters will die. It's literally written in the book, and you need to make sure that they know that. That is the point of the game, is to get to that. But every time a candle goes out, you essentially start a new round. And when the new round starts, you start for however many candles are lit, you start with that number of truths for each round. And so every player gets to say, you start off by saying these things are true. And it might be, we found a flashlight that works on occasion. And then the next truth might be, we found a half full gas can, things like that. So they can literally say, this is in our inventory now, or this is in the world now. It can't be anything that's going to break the game or make their character survive, because the whole idea is that they don't survive. Yeah. And then when you get to the very end, the very last truth for that round is, the world is dark and we are alive. So cool. It's really kind of this neat thing. And then you take it from there to the next phase of the game and kind of keep going from that. And all of the players too, you have to do character creation is actually part of the game. And it's very, it's collaborative character creation too. It's all done on index cards, and you write down words, and whatever words you write down, the player to your left gets one and the player to your right gets the other. And now they've got to use those words, so It's really cool.
Yeah, I love how creative some of the RPGs have gotten these days. Like, don't get me wrong, I didn't dislike the RPGs from like when I started in the 90s, but they all tended to be very heavy, crunchy, tons of tables, which isn't a bad thing. Sometimes I like that. But they were all very similar in their levels of complexity. But then as we're progressing, we're starting to see everything all over the gambit. Like I've got a 3-page PDF that has, I think the rules for 9 RPGs on it. Like each RPG is just like a cue card, like Roll for Shoes or Lasers and Feelings are both like just super simple. And then I've got RPGs that are extraordinarily complex. Someone just got me the Pathfinder 2nd edition book, which I actually find is probably a little less complex than first edition. So first edition, my character sheet was literally a spreadsheet to get all the bonuses in order, but they can be all over the place.
Yeah. It's great though. I love it. And that's why I say that if you don't like playing TTRPGs, you probably just haven't found one that's right for you.
100%. So speaking of interesting and creative stuff in RPGs, I see that you also have a writing credit on Villagers.
Yes, that was a lot of fun.
I just learned about this today. What was this about?
No, so Villagers actually came out, oh my gosh, probably at least a year ago. And it's a really cool supplement. I worked with Samuel from Plot Hooks was the project manager on that. So there was a great group of people that worked on it. Patchter, who's on Twitter, Star Shinobi, Samuel from Plot Hooks, really great crew. And so it's basically a collection of NPCs that you can pick up and drop into your game. It's statted for 5e, but you could probably restat it if you wanted to. And all of the NPCs are meant to be villagers. And as you meet them, like if you encounter them, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's just any villager in town. But if you get to talk to them, each of them comes with like a plot hook about how they could get involved in your story. It might just be, a little side quest or something like that. I wrote 2 of the NPCs that are in there. Astuar Hayax is one of them, who's sort of this very powerful, not really the mayor, but like just a really powerful person in town. And then another one is Hazel Strega, who, is like the little old woman who runs the apothecary. But if you dig a little deeper and you get involved with them, lo and behold, you find out Astuar is actually a green dragon that's in disguise. And his hoard, instead of being like riches, his hoard is actually the people in the town. He hoards sort of the people in the town and uses his influence and power to sort of manipulate things to work for him. The other one, Hazel, what I ended up doing for her is created a whole new type of hag. And so she's actually a hag in the town. And so they all come with like a plot hook, like I said, to get the players involved with those. Really cool stuff in that one. That was a lot of fun to work on. The art in it is really neat. I really like the art that came with that. And we had a lot of fun with it.
It seemed really neat. I'm probably going to end up picking up a copy myself. I don't tend to run 5e games myself these days, but I do have a lot of friends that do, and I'm in a couple of them as a player, which for me is wonderful. I don't get to be. It's only within the past year I started actually getting to be a player. So yeah, I'll probably end up picking it up just so you can be like, hey guys, look at this cool thing, because it seemed neat.
It is. It's really fun. I was really excited to get picked to work on that project, and I mean, Samuel is going on. So if you're not familiar with it, he had a successful Kickstarter for another 5e supplement called Disaster Hamsters.
Oh, I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, the first one was, one that he sold, and then the second one they actually did a Kickstarter for that was successful. And so he's running the show on that one. But basically, it's a supplement that you can drop into your 5e game where you are a sentient hamster.
Nice.
Or you could play like another small critter too, but yeah.
Oh, that's always nice.
Fun.
I remember back in the second edition days, there was an I'm a what article. It was all about having been transformed into an animal or being an intelligent animal of some kind. And stuff like that can be super fun. It's super quirky, a little bit out there.
I played last Halloween. I think it was last Halloween. Might have been 2 Halloweens ago now. I've kind of lost track, but played a game where I played a wombat. And we were all like forest critter. I mean, my wombat wasn't exactly a forest critter, but like we had a squirrel in the party. The squirrel's name was Karen, and she had a Minnesota accent. Then we had a little, like a young owl. We had my wombat. We had a chipmunk, and it was just, stuff like that is just a lot of fun because it's so different and you have to problem solve it a very different way than you would if you were, a 5'8" elf or something like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, RPGs let us get away with the crazy, especially with online. We connect with people with such different areas, have different ideas that as we sort of meld them all together, we're starting to branch out a bit more. I mean, it lets us do things like this. Like we can have an interview across the border, so much easier, and everything like that. And it's
definitely.
Neat. Okay, well, before we run out of too much time, we should probably get to our collaborative question bits.
Probably a good idea.
As is tradition with every single QEDTalks I've done so far, because nerds love to talk. If we don't get to it, we'll run out of time.
No.
There hasn't been a single time I've done this that we haven't just been like, all right, we got to get on this because we're getting sidetracked. We can just talk forever. That's how it goes. All right, let me see here. What do we got? We got a list of stuff. Let's go. All right, I like crocodiles. What's this? Machete Crocodile Jr. asks, I want to kill a PC. Am I a bad DM? One of my players just made a horrible character. He's whiny, edgy, and an overall asshole. Constantly being a bully with both PCs and NPCs, and just being a walking contradiction. Switching constantly from doing one thing to another in a nonsensical way, and generally annoying literally everybody. I just want to kill the character so that it stops. Is this a bad thing?
I think it's normal. I don't think that it's a bad, I don't think that I would recommend it, but I don't think it's a bad, I think there are lots of people who have felt that way, but I would, if this is how the player is playing the character, then it might be worth having a conversation outside of the game to say like, hey, especially if other players at the table have complained about this, might be worth pulling them aside and saying, hey, this is becoming a problem for people. It's not really enjoyable for anyone that you're playing your character like this anymore. Is there a way that we can make sure that you're still playing the character you want without pissing everybody off at the table?
I feel bad because 99% of my answers for all of these questions have have been like, this is not a game issue. This is a social issue.
Yeah. But it is, in this case, yeah. It absolutely is. This is like a, like I said, if other people at the table are also not having fun, then yeah, it's a social issue. It's the game mechanics aren't making the player be a bad, I don't want to say a bad player, but are not making a bad character. The game mechanics are what they are. It's how the player chooses to use them.
Yeah, the character is just a symptom. It's not the cause. And if you kill the character, one, it's just going to piss off the guy that's already honestly kind of sounding a bit pissy. And two, he's probably just going to make 2.0. So yeah, it's going to get worse.
I'm his evil twin brother.
This is 100. I agree. It's 100% just, you got to just talk to the person. They obviously have a stick up the arse that they need to get rid of, or there's something else going on in their life, or maybe just they're not compatible with your group. If everyone is having that amount of issues, I know it would feel bad kicking someone out, but if you talk to them and they don't stop it, just try to be nice about it and be like, maybe you're just we're not your group. There's other groups out there. I guarantee you'll find one these days. Maybe
and I think the way that you just worded that is exactly right. Instead of being like, you're not right for our group, it's maybe this isn't the right group for you.
Yeah.
Because it's a much gentler delivery while still essentially saying the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a pretty fast answer, I think, on our part. That's, I think, pretty straightforward. It's obviously nothing to do with the game or the character. It's one of those situations of the whole, like, that's what my character would do, when it's just the player being a bit of a dick. So
yeah,
that's fine. That's fine. So Machete Crocodile Jr., if you ever see this reply, I hope that it was dealt with gracefully. I hope maybe the person learned and you were able to have fun together. And if not, maybe I hope you both have moved on to better gaming pastures, so to speak, and that you're having fun in your own way.
For you.
Yeah. It's like, you can't, as long as you're not hurting someone else, you can't have fun wrong. It sounds like in this place, he was getting dangerously close to that. So it is something to nip in the bud.
Yes.
And it's not a bad thing to deal with it as a group, to talk to them, but just don't deal with it like it's an intervention or they're going to feel attacked. Like if like 5 people sit down with like another person and be like, you suck, that person's going to go on the defense immediately. So
yeah, it's going to get real ugly real fast.
Yeah. All right. That wasn't too bad at all. We might even get.
But it's
3.
a good question, though. That's actually something that questions like that would come up on my stream a lot. How do you handle a challenging player at your table and that kind of thing? And yeah, it's a question that I think everybody at some point has to come up with an answer for.
Yeah, we've all had it. Every single one of us that have had to. Yeah. Thin Emu 8364 asks, how do I deal with a player that's used to being the GM? I run my games differently than her, but she has a hard time letting that be. What should I do?
I'm going to say the exact same thing I said for the last one. So see the last answer.
Yeah. I feel unfortunately personally attacked on this one, as I have been that bad player. I feel really bad for my friend Bad Hair Gaming. Which, like, check his link. Maybe I'll put his link down below as well. Everybody check him out. He does some good live streams. I'm in some of his games because he's put up with me until I got better. But I've been the DM for my games since the 90s, basically. And it's only within the last year that I regularly get to be a player. So I am just used to that seat. And I try not to like actually or anything, because like I don't even do that at my table. Like I tend to be very, well, I won't say loose with the rules, but I very much follow like the rules of fate. Like don't let the rules get in the way of the narrative. But for a while when I first started into it, and I caught myself doing it, I made a little sticky note and everything to like remind myself, stop being a butt. I had a hard time letting go because I was used to being in that leader's seat. Give them some time, talk to them, nudge them. It's not necessarily that they think you're doing badly. They're just so used to being in that seat, and then the world is theirs and and everything, that just having agency over a character now, even if it is like, it might be a collaborative game, but I'm assuming they're probably talking something like D&D. Just having character agency, it's a shift. It's just a dramatic shift. Yeah. No, I mean, again, I think that's something, it needs to be handled as a conversation. Just, hey, like, I've noticed, or I feel that, when I do this in the game and you try to override my rule or something like that, just having that conversation with them, again, I think is really important. And, yeah, I mean, it is a shift. I can't speak from a GM perspective because I've only done it, I can count on 2 fingers the number of times that I've GM'd before. And it sounds like you had that actually group that kind of... That's exactly what it was. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm all set. Because it was somebody who almost exclusively GM'd was in the group, and then other people who just had been playing for so much longer that they were like, actually, the rule goes like this. And I was like, well, okay, then I don't want to do this anymore. Not my game. Yeah, they would hate it in my games. My games, and then like some of the other GMs I deal with a lot, Bad Hair Gaming and talking with Adam. Like I said, we're not loose with the rules per se. We understand it's still a game, but at the same time, sometimes we kind of change it up depending on the circumstance. Thankfully, our players are understanding of this. Yeah. All right, let's do a question that's not just like talk to them like an adult as the answer.
Okay.
I think I've got one here.
Great.
Main job 42. I don't know. I don't want to know about that. My players claim to love puzzles, but they can't solve any that I throw at them and often just get bored in the process, no matter how simple the puzzle. What can I do to make these work better?
Oh, that's a good one. I actually played a live stream game where it took us over an hour to solve the puzzle, and it was like a 3-hour game, and we spent an hour of it just trying to solve a puzzle. Make it so that the puzzle has more than one right answer, and one of those answers is whatever the party comes up with. If it logically makes sense for the puzzle, then yep. Hey, what do you know? That worked.
That's kind of what my answer was going to be. A lot of my puzzles don't have an answer. I just let the players go till they do something I think sounds cool.
Yeah.
And that's the answer.
Cool, man.
The longest puzzle I ever stretched out wasn't a puzzle at all. It was really funny. They got to a stone door. It was like a stone archway, and there was a bunch of like recessed circles in it, and some of them had these like pucks with like these elemental symbols in them, and there was a couple of them sitting on the floor, and the party spent almost an hour and a half in real life playing around trying to find combos, and they couldn't for the life of them figure it out until one guy just said, "Can I just open the door?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's not locked."
Yeah, but that's exactly it. You know, the game that I played, the way that the DM had set it up was there was literally only one right answer, and we tried everything, but they created it so this was the only right answer that they were going to take, and we were not going to come up with it, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, but there were so many different things that for us as players would have made sense, and so we could have progressed much farther in this story than we were able to because we spent so long trying to find the answer that the DM was looking for. So yeah, I mean, if it sounds cool, if it's logical for the situation, anything like that, I let them figure out the answer. Don't put it on yourself. Don't make more work for yourself than you need to.
I also, if I do need to have an answer in a puzzle, I'll sometimes follow like the rules of 5. If a 5-year-old can figure it out in 5 minutes, then your party might get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
You're not wrong.
It's about as far as we can get with that. All right, we got 3 questions down. I think that's pretty good. We got some nice answers. As is usual, I think on the vast majority of these questions, most of the answer is talk to your group as adults. They're people. Most of your issues are probably social conflicts and have nothing to do with the game.
I mean, you can talk to them like kids if you're playing with kids, but
that too.
Yeah.
That too. Or if they deserve it.
Yeah.
And if you want more GM tips, you can either look at my channel or go to shadowmain.com, where there's like a whole bunch of GM tips right there that you can just look at.
They're all there, and it's free.
There you go. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Upcoming projects, anything in your life you want to talk about or anything before we go?
Let's see. Coming up in December, I'm going to be doing a 5e charity one shot for World Central Kitchen. We're going to be raising money for World Central Kitchen. So for anybody who's not familiar with them, they go to anywhere that there's a major humanitarian disaster. So earthquakes, mudslides, hurricanes, tornadoes, tsunamis, things like that all over the globe. They've been in the Ukraine, helping out refugees and things like that. And they provide meals, like actually chef cooked meals for these people. It's not just like, here's your peanut butter sandwich, off you go. So people can get real food. Sometimes like a bowl of soup goes a long way when you're feeling pretty lousy. So we're going to be raising funds for them in December. And if you follow me on Twitter, as the details become more available, then I will be sure to post it on there. So we would love to have everybody come and check.
Well, definitely follow her on Twitter. Once again, her links will be in the doobly-doo below. And you can get more details on that and all of the other like plethora of stuff she has scheduled like on the constant. So yeah,
it's true.
sounds like he's busy. So that's good.
Yeah, but I love it.
Well, thank you for being on QEDTalks. I think this is a really good chat as always.
Yeah, thank you. This was great. I had a great time.
And for all of you out there, don't forget, like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Check out the rest of my channel. I've got the one book on Drive-Thru RPG with the next book coming out soon, Dungeon Slug. So wait for that one. And I think that's all I got. So as always, stay healthy, stay safe, and have a good one, eh?